And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Saturday morning, flying weather graphic here. We've got IFR, Bering Sea, and the Aleutians, and again along the south shore of the Alaska Peninsula, with IFR right into the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta coast, and marginal VFR all the way into the southern Kuskokwim Valley. To the north and east, so good VFR all the way into Canada. IFR right down into the Brooks Range there, trying to get into the Koyukuk Valley, but not quite making it. And VFR for the southeast coast. And for the afternoon, IFR slips northeastward here up into southwest Kodiak Island. IFR here, Bering Strait, down across Nunivak Island, Yukon Delta coast, and into the southwest mountains. And some IFR kind of retreating back to the north slope from the Brooks Range early on there and covering the central and eastern Arctic coast. Good VFR here for the interior. And some marginal VFR starting to creep into the central and south coast of the Panhandle. Otherwise, some improvement here for the Aleutians with marginal VFR breaking out there with IFR for Kiska and Mchitka Islands. And for Sunday morning, IFR from the Bering Strait into the central and western Bering Sea. Again, all of the Aleutians here right up into southwest Kodiak Island. Then becomes marginal VFR and then VFR from Fognak Island up into south central Alaska. Possible marginal VFR here, western Cook Inlet into the Susitna Valley area to south of Denali Park roughly, and maybe into the Talkeetnas. Otherwise, pretty good in the interior. IFR, central eastern Arctic coast, and marginal VFR staying off the coast of the southeast coast. And for the Sunday afternoon time, that marginal VFR retreats back to the west there, keeping the Panhandle in good VFR conditions that extend up across the North Gulf Coast into south central Alaska, through the central and eastern interior to the Arctic Ocean actually. So some good improvement up there in the afternoon for the Arctic coast. Marginal VFR along and south of the western Brooks Range into areas of the western interior. And again, continued improvement here for the Alaska Peninsula, especially on the Bering Sea side with the IFR just to the south there. And an area of much diminished IFR out over the Bering Sea, actually in the central Bering Sea there, covering St. Matthew Island, but it looks like west of the Pribilofs. And for passes, Anatuvik starting out IFR, becoming marginal VFR, maybe VFR late in the day. That same trend also good for Adigan, not Antigua, and for Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR for the day on Saturday, and rainy also looking to be VFR. VFR for Windy, VFR for Isabel, and VFR from Mentasta as well. And Tonino looking good, VFR flying forecast there. And for Portage, VFR. Chilkoot and White also looking good for the entire weekend, VFR flying both passes there. And for the freezing levels, running about 10 to 11,000 feet here from the southeast interior down across the southeast coast. Out in the Gulf, about 12,000 feet that extends across Kodiak Island and the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, about 8 to 10,000 feet over the interior. And some cooler air at about 6,000 feet coming into the southwestern Bering Sea. And for icing, moisture streaming in or moving into the western interior all the way up to the mid-Yukon River Valley, extending down into Cook Inlet there, northern Cook Inlet, possibly, but look for isolated moderate rime or mixed icing in this shaded area here back to St. Lawrence Island and then down over the western Bering. Otherwise, not much else to look at icing-wise here on the chart, so we'll move on to the jet stream. And we've got northwest winds 75 to 90 knots along the coast of the Panhandle, and a stronger southwest jet here up to 125 knots blowing right into the southwest interior there. And for the flow at 9,000 feet, about the same pattern, but the wind's lighter, up to 65 knots here just south of the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians. But the southeast Bering Sea, seeing this southwest wind at about 40 knots and then kind of diverging here, one branch cutting in over northern Bristol Bay, winds diminishing down to 25 to 30 knots here over the interior, and then another branch kind of wrapping up back around like that with higher pressure here to the central and eastern areas. down into the Gulf of Alaska and across the Panhandle for light wind conditions there. And at 3,000 feet, that very light variable wind pattern shows up again here over the southeast coast, the Gulf of Alaska, much of the interior. A little breezy here along the Arctic coast, at least from say, maybe Wainwright eastward there possibly. 35 knot winds with the strongest winds just off the coast. And then the southwest flow here continuing to push moisture into the western part of the state, anywhere from 30 to 40 knots. And turbulence-wise, up here along the Arctic coast could be some isolated moderate, surface 4,000 feet, and then also isolated to moderate turbulence here possible for the Seward Peninsula, Yukon Delta coastal areas, Nunivak Island, the Pribilofs, and from areas about Atka Island westward to Shimianat 2. Otherwise, nothing of any significance elsewhere around the state.